Hi everyone, I'm Joe Dagger of Business 901. This particular segment is on how I start using Kata as a way of practicing lean in sales and marketing. I hope you enjoy. Of course, in recent years, there's been a rise of popularity in Toyota Kata, as demonstrated in the slide here by Mike Rother. Using the improvement in the coaching Kata gives us a form for continuous improvement, deliberate practice, to overcome the resistance to change and to develop the discipline of lean, and maybe even in sales. What I like about the Kata process is that it moves away from the project management thinking of planning and doing to a more adaptive way of thinking, speculating, and exploring. Just as Deming changed check to study to make PDSA, I think we must understand that plan do should not be taken out of context. And I think Kata helps us frame that conversation. As we move through Kata, we adjust and adapt. As we go through from the current conditions, headed to the target conditions. Think of using a Kanban board for a typical client or even a marketing segment. As we move through the process, we overcome obstacles or learning opportunities. If you're unfamiliar with the Kanban board, it is used quite extensively in software. It was popularized by David Anderson, Jim Benson, and Correlatus. There are two simple rules to Kanban: visualize work and limit work in process. And for example, a team may be limited to working on only 2 obstacles at a time. This looks good for a startup or single sales guy, but I'm a large company, right? A lean enterprise. How would I use something like this? And that's what we're here to discuss. Let's just think if we were marketing Toyota. Co-authors Liker and Meyer of the Toyota Way Field book created the pyramid of the supplier partnering hierarchy of Toyota that consisted of these 7 steps. This is how you become a valued partner at Toyota. For example, at the first stage, mutual understanding, we would stay there at a level maybe of STCA and applying PDCA till we succeed at it. And they invite us to the next step, interlocking structures. Over the years, as we develop as a partner, we become more embedded into the Toyota way. So these may be little target conditions that we're having as we reach these, with the obstacles in the way, the unclear path to get there. And of course, this is our vision, to get there. All right, to be a valued supplier in the Toyota supplier chain. Looking deeper at Toyota's first step, the process of mutual understanding, they base this on key elements of trust, mutual prosperity, and Gitcha Genbutsu, which is actual place, if I said that right. Till we achieve this as an enterprise, it gives us little reason to proceed. Our efforts should go through the PDCA stages to achieve each of these key elements as defined. In the Act stage, we will arrive at a control point to see if there are indications that Toyota is interested in initiating discussion about an alliance structure maybe, or an independent process, and or a parallel sourcing opportunity. If there's no interest, we must continue our efforts in another cycle of gaining mutual understanding, and etc. How would you perceive an approach to all this? Could you perceive these components of each step to be an obstacle? I always want to learn from a customer. I like to think of it as a way of creating and gaining knowledge for the customer and myself. Linear thinking, prescriptive processes, and practices are becoming less successful in today's world. Instead, we must speculate, experiment, and adapt. Peter Drucker always had a catchy statement. Efficiency is doing things right. Effectiveness is doing the right thing. If you have enough foresight to know with certainty what the right thing is in advance, then efficiency is a fitting substitution for effectiveness. In the world of sales and marketing, though, the correlation between efficiency and effectiveness breaks down. I think this spring I read General McChrystal's book, Team of Teams. He talks about the task force in Iran that he headed. We were the greatest army in the world with the most sophisticated weaponry and data available, but we could not keep up. The model and leader development process that he had was sorely out of date. He said, "We often demand unrealistic levels of knowledge in leaders and force them into ineffective attempts to micromanage. The temptation to lead as a chess master, controlling each move of the organization, must give way to an approach as a gardener, enabling rather than directing. A gardening approach to leadership is anything but passive. The leader acts as an eyes-on, hands-off enabler who creates and maintains an ecosystem in which the organization operates." When we think of lean, how we empower a line worker, are we doing the same thing for a salesperson? Are we giving them an and-on? Or are we asking them to follow a prescription? Are we showing the same respect with an eyes-on, hands-off approach? Reverting back to that Kanban board, this could be our main visual task board or a roadmap for a long-term relationship with Toyota or even a marketing segment. I work with some customers that have smaller market segments than just one Toyota. And as you can see, I take each of these steps and break them apart into cards as we go through the process, visualizing work and limiting work in process. Each card, of course, contains a thread of knowledge, building activities to include attachments, comments, etc. I have color-coded each step here. And not each step has to be done in order. We may have an opportunity that allows us to complete a step beforehand. We can also break the work down to smaller boards or swim lanes for individual teams or people. We can create a standard work board for the steps that we need to maintain and the steps we need to improve, PDCA, and also the ones we need to explore, EDCA. Do notice that I was kind of lazy and just copied the boards with a different color background. In reality, the cards would only have one home on one swim lane. But set the target condition or some stretch goal and the obstacles on a performance gap. Most of us focus on the wrong problem, which is choosing us, the supplier, rather than aiming for the target condition or the job the customer needs done. Their gap. We need to stop looking at just fitting our solution to customer problems. We need to see customers as valued investments in who the customer wants to become, their target condition. From that position, we can see how we can adapt to the desired outcome. Most of us think on how the customer could adapt to use our product. In the B2B world, studies have indicated that we're not even invited to the decision-making process till 60% of it has been completed. We may not have the opportunity to ask them to adapt. Maybe, just maybe, it's our responsibility to adapt. And when I discuss adaptations, don't think of we have to create and innovate a new product for every customer. Adaptation is as much about turning things off sometimes as it is creating new things. It is no longer about mapping and scripting. It is about knowledge building and learning. Salespeople return from an external world that afforded them the opportunity to explore, converse, share ideas, and ask questions. They are often met upon their return to a restrictive internal world. Don't go down that path. It is failure written all over it. It is a prescription for cost savings, not for growth. Making connections to what is known and what needs to be learned is today's sales funnel. It is just as important for sales and marketing to get the message in as it is to get the message out. But don't confuse that message to mean more data, less face time. We use PDCA to provide a flexible structure and create a team with shared responsibility and authority for a successful outcome. The plan is in creating an effective way for teams to work, create, share, and capture knowledge during the lifetime of a customer. PDCA is a reliable process that emphasizes learning by doing and as a result focuses on making things happen. Teams are facing new challenges that are solved by collective thought. This collective thinking needs to be done internally, externally, and across organizations. It will not come naturally. It needs to be created and learned. Paraphrasing a message from Jim Highsmith when discussing adaptive leadership, plans evolve from what we know. SDCA. Adaptions are responses to learning what we don't know. PDCA. Flexibility is the response to changes we expect in the future. EDCA. Lean marketing must encompass all three dimensions: standard work, continuous improvement, and exploration. Your competitive landscape is changing from a defined design build to one based on adaptation. The cost of adaptation and the cost of integrating new products and services are spiraling downward. Great products and services are no longer created. They simply evolve. What is the business case for lean in sales and marketing? A lean mindset creates the ability to learn from your customer at a faster rate than your competition. It is your competitive advantage. Thanks, everyone. And if you have any questions, please follow up with me on business901.com, and I invite you to join us at the Lean Marketing